So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning. Good morning to you, and welcome to Storytime in the Woods. I'm Miss Becca. It's a quiet morning here where I live. It's surprisingly warm for this time of year. It's cloudy and the sun is peeking through the clouds every now and then. You may see it come in through the woods and shine on me. I'm so glad that you can be with me here this morning. Friends, you matter to me, and you belong just as you are. I hope you know that you are always welcome here at Storytime. Friends, today I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine named Grandpa Ivy. And in this story, you are going to hear that he and his friends get together every year to make candles. I have a candle that looks just like one of the ones Grandpa Ivy made with his friends, except my friend made this one. Her name is Jessamy. She makes beautiful beeswax candles. If you were here with me right now, you would be able to smell how good this smells. And she makes her candles just like Grandpa Ivy does. She takes a long white wick. That's this part in the very top of the candle. This is the wick right here. And the wick used to be longer, like a long string, and she would dip the candle. She dipped it into the beeswax again and again and again, every time the candle gets a little bit fatter. And then it gets to look like this, and she lets it hang to dry. And I'm lucky enough that I can get them from her. All right, friends, let's call the story fairies, and I will tell you the story of Grandpa Ivy and the candlestick. Story fairies, come and bring stories clear and true. Story fairies, come and bring stories to our story ring. Every year, at the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, Grandpa Ivy invites his friends and neighbors over for a candle making party. They make enough candles that day that they have candles to get them through the rest of the year. They make beeswax candles, dipped beeswax candles, and everyone comes into Grandpa Ivy's kitchen around the big vat of beeswax, and they dip their wick in again and again. They spend the whole day together, and by the end of the day, Grandpa Ivy's house smells deliciously like beeswax. Well, this particular year, Grandpa Ivy was at the end of his day and had said goodbye to all of his friends and was getting into bed, and he fell asleep with a smile on his face and warmth in his heart, thinking of his friends and family being there with him that day. And it also had him thinking about all the other years they were together. He had a little twinkle in his eye when he thought about his neighbor Dante, who he'd seen grow up since he was a little boy. And now this year was the first year that he was big enough to dip his own beeswax candles. Grandpa Ivy fell asleep content that night and woke up the next morning with the same warmth in his heart and the same smile on his face. The sun hadn't come up yet, and he thought, you know what? I want to go out and watch the sun rise in the meadow. So he grabbed one of his newly made beeswax candles. He trimmed the wick down just so, and he lit it. And he held it out in front of him as he walked down the path to the meadow. The light from the candle shined out in little rays from the candlelight. Grandpa Ivy walked carefully all the way to the meadow. And when he arrived, he saw that the sun was just beginning to rise. The colors were just changing from that dark, dark blue to include some purple and some pink. And as he watched, he saw orange colors too. Oh, the sunrise made Grandpa Ivy so happy that he stuck his candle in the ground next to him, and then he danced a little jig right there in the meadow. And as he was watching, much to his delight, Dante ran up the hill from his house. Dante, said Grandpa Ivy, I'm so glad you're here for this beautiful sunrise. Good morning, Grandpa Ivy, said Dante. And then Dante looked down next to Grandpa Ivy and saw that there was a candle in the ground and there was a flame still dancing on it. That gave Dante an idea. His mom had taught him a poem once, and he jumped over the candle back and forth while he said the poem. Jack, be nimble, Jack, be quick. Jack, jump over the candlestick. Again and again, Dante jumped over the candle, and Grandpa Ivy watched and laughed and laughed. Eventually, Dante stopped for a moment, and he walked up next to Grandpa Ivy, and Grandpa Ivy said, Dante, I'm so glad you thought to come up here to watch the sunrise. What do you think we go back to my house and have some apple cinnamon oatmeal together? Dante thought that sounded delicious. So he reached down, he picked up the candle, he blew it out, he stuck it in his pocket, and then he and Grandpa Ivy followed the path back to Grandpa Ivy's house for breakfast. And all was well in the world. Friends, that's the story of Grandpa Ivy and the candlestick. I wonder if you've ever made candles. They sure can be fun to make. And if you make beeswax ones, or even if you burn beeswax ones in your house, they have a special smell that's different from other types of candles. I love it. And I'm grateful for the bees every time I get to experience it. Friends, thank you for being here with me in the woods this morning. I think it might rain soon. It kind of feels that way. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story. And I hope, friends, that you know that you are loved. I'll see you next week.